Hello and welcome to Law and Order SVU here on FANVERSATION. That's right, it's your Law and Order SVU podcast. Yep, I'm
Sure
Yael
is.
Tygiel. I'm joined, as always, by Taylor Gates. Hello, Taylor.
Hello. We're matching lipstick today. I love that.
It's what we do. It's what
That's
we
what
do.
we do. We're very cohesive over here.
Yes. Today we're talking about SVU Season 22, Episode 6, The Long Arm of the Witness. Before we jump into the episode, as always, we want to remind you that if you are in a situation where you need help, if you have been assaulted or need someone to talk to, please reach out to RAINN. Their number is 1-800-656-4673, 1-800-656-4673. Taylor, what does that spell?
It spells hope, everyone.
It does spell hope, and we hope that you reach out to them if you need help. Also, as a reminder, here on Law and Order SVU, sometimes things go dark on the show, and our way to deal with it is to make light. And we tell you this because if you're not ready for that, this might not be the show for you. Consider this your content warning. I'm going to say some terrible stuff today, as I usually do. And some of my favorite parts were the most offensive things they said on the episode.
Yeah, like some of the lines I wrote down, I was like, I don't know that I should be writing this as a line that, well, we'll talk about it.
I agree. I'm with you that there were lines where I was like, this is offensive. I don't know if I can say my favorite line.
Right. We'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll get there. All right, let me read you the quick cap of this episode. Karisi takes on a powerful judge when he inexplicably dismisses the rape case of a university student. I would say, first time, the quick cap is correct.
Yeah, that seems pretty true. It's pretty much what happened and pretty much all that happened, if we're being honest.
Yes. Taylor, you were not a fan of this episode.
I just feel like I've seen this episode before, and I think that the other episodes have done it better than this one. I just feel like and it was such a linear episode. Like I didn't feel a lot of suspense because it went in one straight line. There wasn't really any like bumps in the road. There wasn't any red herrings. It was just very clean cut. And that's just personal preference. I like the ones that kind of go all over the place and have that like weird sense of mystery and like really complicated sort of characters. And I feel like everyone was just it was so black and white too. Like the judge was horrible. Not one redeeming thing, not 1 second. Was there any complication to him? He was just horrible. Like he had no charm to him. Yeah, it wasn't my cup of tea. I'll just be transparent with you.
I really appreciate your honesty. I did enjoy this episode. I will say, as you pointed out, we've seen this before. So later on, we'll get to the headlines that this is ripped from. But the headlines are, I'll explain what they are later, but the actual headline is, this is about, it starts off about the judge from Rapist Brock Turner's case. And if you don't know who Rapist Brock Turner is, A, that's his full title and you have to say it. And B, we will talk about that in a little later. And we did that episode, season 20, episode 8, Hell's Kitchen was his story of Rapist Brock Turner, not the judge. And the other half of this episode was the Judge Kavanaugh story, which we also did season 18, episode 5, Rape Interrupted. Oh, switch those. I put those in the wrong place. Rape Interrupted, season 18, episode 5 is the Rapist Brock Turner case. Season 20, episode 8, Hell's Kitchen is the Kavanaugh case, which was done in a restaurant.
Yeah, it felt like it was sort of copied and pasted from other episodes. And like the fact that we had like these 4 specific people, like we've seen that so many times before too, who were like all very different, but also like came from a similar situation and that they were like lower class. Like it was just like, it felt very, we mashed up like 5 of them and it wasn't like any like specific thing that would like draw me to watch it again, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. I totally get what you're saying. And I disagree. Like I enjoyed it anyway.
No, that's fair. That's totally fair. It was like solid. Like there wasn't anything that was like, well, there was one part, but we'll get to that too. But yeah, I don't know. It's just not my kind of episode. I think that we knew that going into it.
Yes, you really do prefer the twists and the outrageousness. And this was a straightforward classic episode. And I enjoy the straightforward classic. Like, I do like crazy wild twists, but I prefer an episode that is going to tell us a story and remind us of things that are happening in the real world and address real issues.
Totally.
So let's just jump into the return of ADA Isaiah Holmes with Wentworth Miller. We've been waiting for this. I'm so happy to have him back. How did you feel?
I loved having him back too. I love how we brought back a couple of people. Like, we also brought back Ms. Rita, who, damn, like, I don't even remember her being this vicious. Maybe she was, and I just forgot because it's been a while since we've seen her. But they did say, oh, she's like grown another fin over quarantine. And I'm like, it does seem like she has. She's brutal now.
I loved it.
But then we had
Rita with Rita.
Yeah, but then we had Wentworth, and he was so sweet, and so it kind of balanced it out. It's like, okay, we have like a person we're rooting for and a person we just like love to hate, and I love that we got both.
It's funny because we had recently mentioned that we really would love to see, now that Barba's doing defense, we'd love to see him with Rita. And Calhoun is one of my favorite lawyers because, so she's got the viciousness of Buchanan, whom I love to hate.
Oh my gosh.
But we've seen that Rita has a heart underneath it all, because we have her in that episode. Was it? What's it called? You know the one I'm talking about.
Is it a misunderstanding?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, this is one time I knew an episode and you did it, and I'm gonna run.
You knew the episode I was talking about. I just can never remember the title.
No, that's fair. That's a very like generic title. I misunderstand. Like, that's every episode, but.
But like, that was the episode where we saw that she has a heart, and it really is amusing to see her go back, especially because when the episode starts and we're at the Valentina Palma case and Benson's on the stand, she goes, as we both know, because she's like, hey, remember that time?
Yeah. And it was interesting to see kind of like her thought process and how she's kind of navigating all of this too.
Yes. Which I want to talk about what the F is happening with Rita. But we will talk about that a little bit later. I want to talk about our return to our favorite university.
Hudson U, baby. Let's go.
So I do appreciate them addressing why we have a new president of Hudson, because we recently had Benson going back and forth with the same woman, and the idea that Hudson has been dealing with a revolving door of presidents makes sense. That school goes through so much crap. Like, they're terrible. So I really loved that we had this. And I love our new president, Michelle Dubois, played by Tony Belafonte. She was not taking anything from Benson. She was like, no, I'm not afraid of you.
She was serving me Annalise Keating from How to Get Away with Murder. I can't speak, but I love, like, she's great. I was like, let's have her back, because she I'm with. Like, the other presidents, no, like, they can go, but she was great. Like, she was kind of cooperative, but also like held her ground, which I loved.
Yeah, I liked her a lot, because the last Hudson U president we had was very defensive. And like, in the end, in the episode of the I Am Jane, that episode.
That's another one. They had all the protests, and I'm like, okay, this is the same episode. Like, we always are having protests on the Hudson University's campus, which like does make sense considering their like status and what they do, but it just feels redundant. Like, something like, maybe that's the point though, honestly.
Yes, but so in that episode, the president was very defensive, was like, I did the best that I could, I'm doing what I can, and I can't really help this girl, and blah blah blah. And President Dubois was like, what do you want? What are you here for? What is, like, I'm standing my ground against you. I'm not afraid of you. I know what I'm doing. I really appreciate that. And I would love to see her go head to head with Benson again.
Me too. And she's like, let's just cut to the chase. I can't read your mind. What are you here looking for? Give me a hand. Like, she was just
Right.
like, let's go. I got stuff to do other than this. Like, let's figure this out so we can move on. I loved it.
Yeah. I love it. Oh, look at that. We have Tony Belafonte joining us.
Thanks you were great, Tony. By. Come back soon.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for stopping by. I mean, that character, incredible. Speaking of incredible women in this episode, I also want to talk about the judge in what was it in Gallagher's
Gallagher. Yeah, haven't we had like villains named Gallagher before too? I feel like that's like a villain name. Like it's a Chad name, you know? Like there's some names that are just like, you know, they're gonna be the villain. Like Harris, Chad, Gallagher, anything that's like sounds really pretentious that should be a last name, but we're making it a first name because they're rich and from the Hamptons. Yeah.
Well, before we move on to Judge Lewis, I want to say Tony says this is great and would love to be back. Honestly, if we bring back President Dubois, then Tony's got to come on to the after show with us.
That seems fair to me, personally.
Yeah. I think that's the way it's got to work. Let's talk about Judge Lewis, who was not taking any of Rita's crap this episode. Yeah. I love when the trial starts and she was like, I'm gonna hold you in contempt. You speak over me. Ridiculous.
She was great. We've had some good judges this season, honestly, who are just like, absolutely not. Order in this court. I really have loved it. But yeah, I liked her a lot too.
Fun fact about Judge Lewis, that is actress Adrienne Lennox, who is a 4-time repeat offender. She was in season 3, episode 4, Rooftop, season 4, episode 24, Perfect, season 7, episode 9, Rockabye, and now this episode as well.
Her sheer range. I love that.
Yeah, I think this judge character is my favorite of her characters. And I want to see this no-nonsense judge back.
Me too. Me too. And I love, maybe we'll talk about this later, but the fact that she pretty much like did exactly what he did, but like to him and like for justice instead of, you know, being the worst person on earth. Loved that. I did love that little parallel coming back. She's like, oh, well, you know, judges get to use their power and I'm using mine right now. Exactly.
Yeah, I loved that moment. And at the end when they were like, well, how long till he's out on appeal? I think that was a really great point. Like, yes, this was very symbolic and he will get out because there was a deal in place. And like, I feel like he's not staying in, but it was nice. It was a nice symbol.
Yeah, totally. I thought it was powerful. The way that she was just like, no, I'm taking this into my own hands.
Yeah. I also want to discuss back over at Hudson, the security guard. This guy was so good.
Yeah, he was wonderful.
This character was so funny, and I really love when he gives Finn the notebooks and he says, when he says it wasn't my idea, and he goes, well, then thank your daughter.
Yeah. I really thought the daughter was going to come back, to be quite honest with you, because the Gallagher teacher's there, and I kind of thought that she would be involved somehow or like know somebody who was like, I don't know. I just thought that she'd be part of it because she like had a very pointed look, I feel like, in that scene. So I was like, ooh, I think that she's like going to come back and help this case, but not this time around. Maybe next time around where we're at Hudson, because we inevitably will be, let's be honest.
Not just will we be back at Hudson, this was Tau Omega frat again. And if you remember, one of my favorite episodes is Brotherhood from old season, which is about Tau Omega.
Like, how are they not kicked off campus? Like, revoke Tau Omega's like chapter. Like, get them off of here.
Here's the crazy part. So Tau Omega is the frat from Brotherhood, and then
Mhm.
in a Barba episode, Tau Omega
Yeah,
also is the one who was selling the T-shirts that had the girl hogtied and said "no" means yes. Like, how is Tau Omega still a thing?
that's what I'm saying. Like, you need to get them off campus. Like, this is not. No, like clearly they haven't changed. They're never gonna change. They only attract one kind of person throughout years and years and years. Like, no, no more.
Yeah.
Tau Omega.
Tau Omega. All right, let's talk about some of the women that came forward, because I have to tell you, the most interesting one was Maya, and
Mm-hmm.
her story. I feel like was it's a very like common story of people abusing their power to help someone, and I think what bothered me is when she's on the stand and Calhoun starts bringing up the prostitution thing, and she's like, I was forced, but doesn't continue to harp on the fact that there was a threat. So it's not just like, he said if I did this, he would help me. It was if I didn't do this, he would destroy me.
Right. Yeah, I really liked seeing her. I thought she was a great character. And I love that I love that some of these people were connected to like the court and the law. Like she had her clerkship and she kind of had like a working understanding of like, well, this is the most he's gonna get if I go forwards. Like, what's the point? And like she kind of anticipated what could happen, which I really liked. And then the same thing with Carmen, who was the reporter, who was like, no, they're not gonna hire me on to work in the courts anymore. And like he still has kind of power over all these people. So like it's illegal, but it's not going to stop him from blacklisting me off of there. So I really like that we kind of use that device of people who were in that world too.
Absolutely. And it even adds to the fact that he asked Maya, like, could you benefit from testifying? And she was like, no, everyone's going to think that I slept with him to get this job. And later he asks to Isaiah, he goes, is this a good career move? And he's like, no.
Right. Yeah, I like that too because it was very like anticipatory. Like everyone's like, "Oh yeah, me too." Like they're just trying to get, publicity or what. It's like no, like so many more people are gonna hate you than support you, and that's like the facts, and that sucks, and it shouldn't be how it is. But that is how it is still today. Like there's gonna be a vast, big group of people who are gonna say you're making it up, regardless of what you say or do.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Feels like Carisi's doing well. He's doing better at his job, especially if we look at the threat that Judge Gallagher made towards Carisi. He was threatening him with getting disbarred. He used Italian racist slurs. He said,
Yeah.
I was first of all, what year do you think this is that you can say that to someone?
That's what I'm saying. Here's the thing. That is what I'm saying. And this is where some of the lines come in. Like this guy was just such a comic book villain. Like just like everything he said, I'm like, are you kidding me right now? I'm sure there are people like this, but like it was not nuanced. He was just the worst and kept hammering that home. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
He was a bully. It was just like a high school job, like saying all these dumb like insults.
Yeah, it was. I agree. It was a little over the top, which I know you love. So
I mean,
yeah, I did really love that. I also want to talk about the threats. Speaking of Judge Gallagher's threats in the bathroom at Isaiah, and he says those are out of context men's room talk.
we know what that came from.
We know where you're going.
Yeah,
So,
we threw everything into the blender here. Like everything.
That is true. Yeah, Daryl agrees the racial abuse was surprising. Yes, it was. I feel like it was kind of out of left field. I get the idea that like he thinks he's better than everyone. I think the like making fun of the school that Carisi went to and stuff like that. I think that makes more sense. I guess like the classism made sense, the racism.
Yeah. Right, because he's Italian. Like, what? Huh? Okay.
All right. Okay.
Maybe that's like speaking in New York, but I mean, I don't think that's necessary. I don't know. I don't want to get into that, but he's Italian.
What year is it?
Yeah, right. Like, okay.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Rita and Benson thing at the end, right? So Rita warns us at the beginning of the case, and she goes, Judge Gallagher chose this case. He wanted to do this case because he's running for AG. And then in the end, when Benson's like, what are you doing? Rita says, read the room. She says, the fix is in. She says, you got to, if you keep fighting, you're going to be shut out of conversation. And then she says words that I just like couldn't believe came out of her freaking mouth. She says to Benson, lie back and pretend you're enjoying it. I was at a loss for words. Benson hearing these words from Calhoun, this better come back. Calhoun has to return. This is my thought, is that she has to return. This has to continue. We have to see where this is going.
Yeah, I did not like that moment. I'm gonna be honest. I think that is just like over the top disgusting, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, I was not really a huge fan of that. But I think you're right. If they introduce that, that's gonna have to come back, because you can't just say something that horrific and ignore it after that.
I completely agree. That has to come back into play somehow. That the season has to be going there, because I do think the choice to have a judge who is like anti Me Too is interesting, and an interesting place to go that will continue. But I think, this has to keep going. This can't be where that conversation ends. Zach in the chat says Calhoun better come back after that moment with Liv. Yeah, I like all those exclamation points. Totally.
I agree. I totally. And we've had that happen before, where there's like DAs. I forget who exactly it was, but the one DA that decided to quit because she like couldn't handle it anymore. You know what I'm talking about?
Which one?
It was a redheaded girl.
Which redheaded girl?
I don't know. Okay, I'll look it up after, and we'll talk about it after. But I'm like losing the details. I know. Yes. Yes, she has to, because that's such like a bomb to set off for it not to be explored and like look at the damages of that. And like what
it suggests she's given up. And I think that's very interesting as well, because it seems premature for Calhoun to be giving up.
It's like giving up, but it's also like working against her own interests. I think is like something we're exploring for her, because she's like, yeah, I don't believe this, but I want to be on the winning team and I want to be taken seriously. So I have to pretend I believe this and convince myself I believe this if I want to like succeed in my career. So yeah, I think maybe that's also kind of what they were going with, about like, well, you kind of have to give up everything you believe in order to do this job, which I think that Karisi is also kind of struggling with. So maybe that's almost like a parallel journey in a way.
No, I think you're right. I think that's very interesting. I would love to see Maya, who may lose her job because of the situation that she is in, join the DA's case. Maya, who testified. I would love, since we brought in all of these court people, all of these lawyers, all of these women were like, I was going to be a lawyer. I think if we brought all of them, and I would love to see them come back in our team. I think Maya joining the DA's office would be cool.
Oh yeah, it would. Oh, that would be so cool.
And it would make sense, right? If she gets let go because she testified against a judge, then it would make sense that she would need a new job and she joined the DA's office. That said, we all know I don't know how that all works. So that's probably not how it works.
Listen, you can make it work. We had Kat come in after being at Vice for like a second. So like maybe we just absorb our team in after talking to them a couple times.
Honestly, I feel like you and I have this issue where every episode we're like, this person should come back.
We've talked about that. Like every episode has 150 series regulars, but like if it was up to me, I'd do it.
Honestly, the security guard at Hudson, I was like, wait, you want to tell me that this man's been here since the 90s and this is the first time we've talked to him? That
Yeah,
doesn't seem right
right?
at all.
Yeah, no, I don't buy that either.
All right. It's unless there's more that you want to talk about this episode specifically, it seems like it might be a good time to talk about our favorite lines.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. I'm gonna start because I know that you're gonna. I only have two, and you probably have a lot more, and you're gonna
I
steal
have three.
one.
I only have three. So
Okay, we
you go
both
first.
have a two busboy.
Yep, that we for sure do. And then he continues on to say swinging fish sticks. Here's the thing. I don't see frat boys eating a lot of fish sticks.
That's true.
Like pizza rolls, fish sticks is a bad choice, but okay, whatever floats your boat.
I think the idea that that there was a cafeteria specifically for the frat is fascinating.
Yeah, but it's not usually a cafeteria, it's like a kitchen.
Right.
Maybe Hudson University works different than where I'm from. Who knows? I mean, it seems like it does in a lot of other ways. So
yeah. My other favorite line is I believe they were accustomed not noticing the help. I loved that line. Because it's you get it. You get where we're at.
Totally. Yeah, I agree that painted a really kind of vivid picture of what the relationship was like back in college. Speaking of our security guard, Fave, I love what he said. I got more bennies than you for your tuition for 3 kids. I love him. He was like, yeah, I played it smart. Like, I'm saving so much money by working here and doing this. More bennies than you. Incredible. And then we kind of talked about the Italian stereotyping insults. The fact that he said they can smell the garlic coming off your cheap suit. Okay. That could also be me after eating a pizza or going to Olive Garden. I don't see that as an insult. That seems pretty you ate a good meal.
It also sounds like you eat things that have no flavor, sir. If you don't eat garlic, what are you eating?
Right. Well, he seems like he doesn't. He seems like he eats some boiled chicken, no seasoning. This is what he seems.
I have another line that I forgot that I loved. It's when Calhoun is tearing apart April on the stand, and she says, "Is it possible that you ruined your life all by yourself?"
Yeah, I was like, that's what I'm saying. She was so vicious, and then she goes, the way that she plays that little trick where she's like, "You've been married 2 times." Oh, sorry, 3 times. Oh, she practiced that, and I hate that she practiced that. She practiced running lines in the mirror. She knew exactly what she was doing. Vicious.
I love Calhoun. Vicious Calhoun. Oh, her and Buchanan are my favorites to hate.
She's Elizabeth Marvel's such a great actress though, that she always nails these very professional roles, House of Cards. I think Homeland, she was a similar character. Mm-hmm. She just she has the corner of that market where she's so good at being in a suit.
Absolutely. I agree. I love her so much. So as we mentioned earlier, this episode is in fact ripped from the headlines. I have the 2 headlines. It is again, rapist Brock Turner's judge. So if you missed the episode that covered I guess the rapist Brock Turner episode, that was season 18, episode 5, Rape Interrupted. Actually, we at AfterBuzz covered this episode, so you can watch that after show if you look for it on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. But if you missed the story of rapist Brock Turner, again, that is his full title and should be called as such, because rapist Brock Turner raped a girl at, I believe it was Stanford, and got 6 months because the judge decided that it would hurt his career, his college career, and that he was a good swimmer and some BS like that. So his judge gave him a very, very low sentence of 6 months, and he was out in like 3. So if you want more information about rapist Brock Turner, you can look that up. Also, it was the Judge Kavanaugh case, which, if you have not been paying attention to the world, that was 2 years ago. And SVU covered it in season 20, episode 8, Hell's Kitchen. Judge Kavanaugh, who is, I believe, currently a Supreme Court judge.
Yes, he is.
Raped a woman while he was in college.
And that's where they pulled a lot from that. That's where the memo book sort of came from, I think, too, with the calendar. I just noticed that little detail of how they kind of sprinkled that throughout, like the details from that.
Yeah. So those are the stories that we ripped from the headlines for this episode. Again, we covered both of those episodes on AfterBuzz, so you can check out those after show if you want more information about those headlines. It feels weird to redo the rip from the headline, but they redid them. So
yeah,
it's okay.
All right.
All right. So before we go on to our weekly poll and what we learned, I will remind everybody. So SVU is taking a hiatus. They decided that we don't have a new episode next week or the week after. I believe we have a few weeks that we will be covering older episodes. So stay tuned. Make sure you have subscribed here so that you don't miss our next episode. But also, if you're listening to our podcast version, make sure you've subscribed to wherever you're listening to podcasts. We're on iTunes and Spotify and whatever the Google one is. Yep, anywhere there are podcasts, we're there.
Yes.
That sounds right.
You can't get rid of us, is what we're saying. You have no excuses, what we're saying.
That is what we're saying. Also, we will tell you on social. We'll let you know which episodes we're going to be discussing and who will be joining us for those episodes. That's all coming out, and we'll tell you where to find that in just a bit. So, Taylor, tell us about our weekly poll.
Absolutely. Okay, so you guys, last week we posed a question to you all. Oops, I lost it. Okay, here we go. We posed a question to you all, what your favorite sex work or episode is. We liked last week a lot. It came in 4th place with 0% of the votes. So
wow.
That was Turn Me On, Take Me Private, which, okay, like, that seems harsh because I enjoyed it, but
it wasn't the best of those 4.
It wasn't the best of 4. These were strong episodes. That's totally true. In 2nd place, we have She Paints for Vengeance with 9.1% of the votes. Great one.
Wait, She Paints with Vengeance got better score than last week? That's shocking.
You can't really beat Benson Angel Mural. You simply can't. All right. In 2nd place, we have Porn Stars Requiem, which is amazing. That's your favorite, Yael, because it's a great episode. This is Bella Knox case. And then in 1st place, I'm so glad this one won because it's my favorite, by far, it's one of my favorite episodes ever of all time. Dreams Deferred with Patricia Arquette. That got 54.5% of the votes. Such an amazing episode. I love it so much. So good taste, honestly. Good taste this week. I like to judge all of you guys for what you vote every week. So stay tuned for that. And then this week, we asked you guys what your favorite corrupt judge episode is. We have Crush, which is season 10, episode 20. That's a fun one. We have Jersey Breakdown, season 15, episode 12. We have Brothel, season 20, episode 15. And then we have The Long Arm of the Witness, season 22, episode 6. So definitely go vote on those. I think my favorite the score currently, it's somewhat close. The one that we just discussed is actually in the lead. And 2nd place is Jersey Breakdown. 3rd place is Crush, which Crush is my personal favorite of these, I think. And then Brothel is currently in last with 14% of the vote. But it's going to be a closer race than last week, it looks like.
Wow. I'm shocked. I already voted. I also said Crush. I'm really surprised at how well this one is doing, but also how low Brothel is doing. First of all, Brothel was such a fun... Yeah, it gave us Phoebe. It was such a fun episode. It inspired me last week about the box trucks. Or 2 weeks ago.
Yes, the pop-up, whatever.
Pop-up brothels.
Pop-up brothels. Yeah, for sure. Right. So we have some great episodes, so definitely go vote, and we'll tell you where to do that in just a few minutes.
Yes. Now our newest segment. What did we learn?
Ooh.
What did we learn? So I'll be honest, I learned a new racist slur against Italians. I'm not gonna say it, but I learned it. Did not know that. I didn't know
Great.
it. That's what I learned. Also, I looked up Wentworth Miller's ethnic background because I had forgotten. So I relearned his background. Those are the things
Yes,
that I've learned.
I love that. What was the name of the last judge in this episode? I forget her
Judge
name.
Lewis.
If I have a legal case, I want Judge Lewis presiding over it, and that is what I am gonna go with. What I learned because she was great.
You want her to be your judge. That's great.
Yes,
I like that.
because she will fight for me, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Cool.
I like it. Hey, there are no rules about what we learn in this in our what we learn segment.
All over the board, you guys. This is a very educational program.
Yes. Again, thank you so much to everybody who tuned into our show today. We will be back next week with an older episode. So if you like classic SVU, this is the place for you. We will have guests be joining us for the classic episodes that we're covering until we come back. What else did I want to tell you before we go? That's right. If you need the RAINN Hotline, again, that number is 1-800-656-4673. 1-800-656-4673. Obviously, RAINN is not sponsoring us, but we really want people to have a resource if you need it. They are available to chat if you need help.
And you can always donate to RAINN too if you feel so inclined, because they do a lot of great work. So yeah, just wanted to throw that out there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Please make sure that you have liked and subscribed and all that good stuff here on YouTube, or if you're listening to the audio version, that's very helpful to us. So please do that. Until next week, when we talk about an older episode, Taylor, where can everyone keep up with you and where can they find the poll?
You guys can find me and the poll on Twitter at alphabet_Ann, and you can find me on Instagram at Taylor_Gates_.
Amazing. I'm Yael Tygiel. I'm everywhere at Yael Tygiel. I currently have a brand new TikTok. Please check it out. Honestly, if you could give me a follow for the next month and a half, and then feel free to unfollow after that. Long story short, I have a possible job and they're looking at my numbers. So that'd be helpful.
Amazing.
Yep, I'm plugging it. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next week. Bye.